Compulsory schooling destroys independent thought. School choice is not just necessary, it is crucial to the continuation of our republic. We aspire with all our strength to an independent existence, and are unaware of what it means to have an independent mind. Chantal Delsol, Icarus Fallen, Search for Meaning in an Uncertain World. Schools should never have been shut down during the pandemic because of the numerous negative impacts it had on students. Firstly, the closures caused major declines in literacy and mathematics skills among students, as they lacked the structure and support of in-person classes. Additionally, the shift to remote learning created disparities in education, as students from low-income families and those with special needs struggled to access the resources and technology required for online learning. The closure of schools also had significant psychological effects on students, as the lack of social interaction and structured routines took a toll on their mental health. The shutdown had far-reaching and long-lasting effects on students, and we will not know the full extent for years to come. In 2021, Rand Paul offered up the School Act as a solution to this crisis. We should support school choice. However, that solution does not go far enough. As the impact of the ongoing pandemic and the government response efforts continue to place parents in situations requiring greater flexibility in balancing working and providing for their families' critical needs, especially when educating their children at home, My School Act grants them that flexibility by empowering them to use their own tax dollars to find the option that best fits their family's needs and allowing them to reclaim a bit of stability in uncertain times, said Dr. Paul. Parents should dissociate from mandatory schooling because it undermines their right to choose the best education for their children. The government has no right to dictate how a child should be educated, and mandating that all children and young adults attend school takes away the autonomy of parents to make decisions about their own families. Mandatory schooling often results in a one-size-fits-all education system that does not adequately meet the unique needs and interests of individual children. This approach stifles creativity and independent thought and fails to prepare students for the real world. Furthermore, the monopoly of the government-run education system often results in lower quality and inefficiencies, as there is no competition driving innovation and improvement. Ultimately, the decision about a child's education should rest with the parents, not the government. It is the responsibility of parents to teach kids moral virtues, and bureaucrats should stay out of it. Famed author John Taylor Gatto wrote a book called Dumbing Us Down, The Hidden Curriculum of Compulsory Schooling, and had this to say. I've noticed a fascinating phenomenon in my 30 years of teaching. Schools and schooling are increasingly irrelevant to the great enterprises of the planet. No one believes anymore that scientists are trained in science classes or politicians in civics classes or poets in English classes. The truth is that schools don't really teach anything except how to obey orders. This is a great mystery to me because thousands of humane, caring people work in schools as teachers and aides and administrators, but the abstract logic of the institution overwhelms their individual contributions. Although teachers to care and do work very, very hard, the institution is psychopathic. It has no conscience. It rings a bell and the young man in the middle of writing a poem must close his notebook and move to a different cell where he must memorize that humans and monkeys derive from a common ancestor. On that note, here are 7 reasons to avoid mandatory schooling based on the writings of John Taylor Gatto. Destruction of individuality. Gatto believed that mandatory schooling stifles creativity and individuality by forcing students to conform to a rigid system. Lack of relevance. Gatto argued that much of what is taught in schools is not relevant or useful to students, and that this results in boredom and disengagement. Emphasis on obedience. Gatto believed that the structure and curriculum of schools prioritize obedience and conformity over critical thinking and problem-solving. Loss of family time. Gatto argued that mandatory schooling takes children away from their families for much of the day, which can have negative impacts on family relationships. Harmful to mental and emotional health. Gatto believed that the stress and pressure associated with mandatory schooling can be harmful to students' mental and emotional health. Failure to prepare for real life. Gatto argued that the structure and curriculum of schools fail to adequately prepare students for the challenges of real life, and that this results in a lack of critical thinking skills and problem-solving ability. Wasted time. Gatto believed that much of the time spent in schools is wasted, and that students could be better served by pursuing their own interests and passions. As Gatto once said, "Whatever an education is, it should make you a unique individual, not a conformist. It should furnish you with an original spirit with which to tackle the big challenges. It should allow you to find values which will be your roadmap through life. It should make you spiritually rich, a person who loves whatever you are doing, wherever you are, whomever you are with. It should teach you what is important, how to live and how to die." The unschool movement is arguably a product of Gatto's writing and advocacy. It is an educational philosophy that advocates for self-directed, learner-centered education outside of traditional school settings. Proponents of unschooling believe that children should be in charge of their own learning and that they will naturally seek out knowledge and experiences that are relevant and meaningful to them. This approach to education values creativity, individuality, and hands-on experiences over formal instruction and standardized testing. The unschool movement is based on the belief that children are naturally curious and motivated to learn, and that they will be more successful in life if they are allowed to pursue their passions and interests freely. Here are 7 priorities of the unschool movement. Number 1, child-led learning, allowing the child to pursue their own interests and passions rather than following a prescribed curriculum. Number 2, natural consequences, using real-life experiences to teach important lessons, rather than relying on punishment or reward systems. Number 3, trust and respect, treating the child as a capable and competent individual, rather than assuming they need to be controlled or managed. Number 4, collaborative relationships, fostering strong relationships between the child and their parents/caregivers, based on mutual respect and trust. Number 5, life skills development, focusing on the development of practical life skills such as cooking, cleaning, and budgeting, in addition to academics. Number 6, rejection of grades and testing, rejecting traditional evaluations such as grades and standardized tests in favor of self-reflection and self-assessment. Number 7, community involvement, seeking out opportunities for the child to engage with and contribute to their local community. The issues above should be taken very seriously. At this point, we have only gotten half-hearted solutions to these real problems. In 2000, the publication of Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam led to a bit more contemplation on the importance of community involvement. In response, some high schools implemented a mandate for students to complete 10 hours of community service before graduation. However, this is not a satisfactory solution. It is a band-aid on the cancerous problem killing the American community. Public education is often overly protective of students, and this tendency is sometimes shared by parents and teachers. This issue can also be attributed, in part, to the influence of lawyers, courts, and an abundance of lawsuits. Perhaps it is time to reconsider the mandatory nature of schooling and shift the focus towards empowering students through alternative forms of education. The individual, when excessively protected, is stunted in his growth. Having avoided all risks, he becomes anxious when faced with even the smallest challenge, and thus lives a petty existence. Growing with no other limit than the financial capacities of the nation, and in general even beyond them, rights viewed as entitlements ultimately make a society impotent. Paradoxically, some gifts eventually impoverish. Chantal Delsol, Icarus Fallen, Search for Meaning in an Uncertain World. Based on my reading, here are 7 solutions to the public school problem. Number 1, alternative education. Gatto advocated for alternative forms of education, such as homeschooling and unschooling, that allows students to pursue their own interests and passions. Number 2, empowering students. Gatto believed that students should be given more autonomy and control over their own education, and that they should be treated as capable and competent individuals. Number 3, rethinking evaluation. Gatto argued for a rejection of traditional evaluations such as grades and standardized tests, in favor of self-reflection and self-assessment. Number 4, real-life learning. Gatto believed that students should be given opportunities to engage in real-life learning experiences, such as internships, apprenticeships, and community service projects. Number 5, focusing on life skills. Gatto argued that schools should prioritize the development of practical life skills, such as cooking, cleaning, and budgeting, in addition to academics. Number 6, collaborative relationships. Gatto emphasized the importance of strong relationships between students, teachers, and parents, based on mutual respect and trust. Number 7. Rejecting conformity. Gatto believed that schools should reject conformity and embrace diversity, by allowing students to follow their own interests and passions, and by encouraging them to think critically and creatively. What do you think? Is it time to embrace the unschool movement?